What's up, everyone? Happy Friday. It's Justin. Welcome back to Creator Wizard, the business of being a creator. Today, I am super excited. We have a really special interview today. I'm going to be talking with Jordan Greenwell. Jordan is a family and lifestyle influencer who has a lot of opinions about the rampant influencer fraud problem that's been taking over social media the last few years, especially how real influencers can stand out and fight back against fake influencers who are buying likes and views and other inauthentic engagement. So welcome, Jordan.
Hey, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm stoked to have you on. Before we kick it off, I just wanted to thank Restream so much for sponsoring the stream. And I wanted to just kind of get your take initially. Like, how did you first start on social media? When did this issue of like fake influencers and buying likes and bots, like, how did this first come onto your radar and why are you so passionate about it?
So I started influencing slash blogging in 2018. And back then I was very clueless to anything with the whole like buying likes, followers. I didn't even know it existed. And as I'm trying to grow on social media, I'm seeing other people around me grow at like astronomical rates. But I was noticing like patterns where their followers didn't look real. And so I started doing research and I realized that there's a whole industry out there that basically fakes an influencer until you make it, like the fake it till you make it. And it blew my mind because I was being pretty much shoved to the bottom for doing things the right way because other people were doing it the wrong way, but getting there faster. So I'm super passionate about it and really think it needs to be talked about more.
Yeah. And, I know you're on Instagram and you have a blog and you're on TikTok and things like that. What has been the biggest struggle for you in terms of like when you're getting on the radar of different brands, and they're first asking like, they're giving you some sort of pushback and be like, oh, you don't have enough followers or your engagement rate isn't high enough or like this type of thing, compared to like other people that they're talking to, like what is generally like your response when they say those types of things?
So at first, it's kind of upsetting because I know how hard I've worked to grow to the number that I have, and it is a small number. I mean, it grows every day, but it's still small compared to some people out there. But then I will look at who these brands in particular are working with, and I will do my kind of due diligence in looking into those influencers. And I realize that even though those influencers might have 25, 30,000 followers, and I'm much less, that they are buying their likes, they're buying their followers. And so it upsets me when brands tell me that I don't have the right amount of followers, the right amount of likes, but they're partnering with people who are just buying them. So yeah, I mean, it's upsetting, honestly.
Yeah, I hear that, and it's like, whenever I see that, I always think like, aren't you like doing any sort of vetting? Like, it really doesn't seem like you are when you're partnering with people like this. Especially, I always wonder, like, there's certain influencers, you probably know, there's certain influencers which just
Mhm.
like, how are they continuing to get brand deals? I don't understand this. Like, they
I'm sure you.
clearly, yeah, it's like it seems so bizarre to me. I wanted to give a shout out to some folks in the chat. Keto Twins, what's going on? Diana, Kamunto Bear, D and Fam. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for tuning in. Yeah, super excited. D said I'm super excited for this live tuning in from Canada. Absolutely. So I wanted to talk about like specific things that you've seen because we were talking prior to this and you shared some things with me that influencers are doing that I hadn't even heard of before. So like
Mhm.
what buying likes, like what are you seeing? What are the types of ways in which people are being sneaky?
I mean, honestly, what am I not seeing? Like I see things every day that I want to say I'm shocked, but then again, I'm like, I'm not shocked. So I'm seeing anything from buying tens of thousands of followers at a single time that are popping up immediately. Sometimes they come in slowly. They'll get 1,000 one day and they'll get, 3,000 the next. I'm seeing influencers that are buying likes by the hundreds. So when they have a post go live, you'll see, 5 or 6 likes after 10 minutes, and then you'll refresh, and then suddenly they're at 1,000 likes after, 10 minutes. And it's like, something just doesn't add up. And then you'll see things so far as to where influencers are taking screenshots of their metrics and editing them in apps like Photoshop and Lightroom and making those metrics look more impressionable than they really are. And it's just It blows my
That's
mind.
crazy. People are photoshopping their
Literally.
metrics.
Yep. It's insane. And it's honestly hurting the brands more just as much as it's hurting the influencer industry, because these brands are investing in these influencers thinking like, wow, this girl gets, 10,000 likes. She's got 100,000 followers, and then they get their return and it's nothing, and they're just like, okay, maybe I shouldn't invest in influencer marketing. So,
Mhm. I mean, like, what are your thoughts on we'll talk about engagement pods and loop giveaways and things like
yeah,
that, but in terms of just like straight up buying likes, because I think that that's one of the most prevalent things that we see is
right,
like, or buying followers and buying likes, right? Because I think most creators think that like, okay, like if unless I can get that, part of the problem is that, for example, a lot of these brand deal platforms have minimum follower like thresholds, right? So it's like, to be able to get onto our platform, you need 10,000 followers or whatever, right? And
mhm,
so people think, okay, it's like a formula for them. It's like, okay, well, if I get 10,000, then I can start getting brand deal opportunities. So like to them, it's like a worthwhile investment, right?
yep,
But in the short run, I mean, like you've talked about this before too, that it's just like, when it comes to a brand, when they get the results back and when they actually follow through with working with a creator on the campaign, your following really has nothing to do with it, right? Because if you buy 5,000 followers and you were at 5,000, literally
mhm,
those 50% of people, they're not going to see your post. They're not real people probably, right? Or they're
yep.
fake accounts, and so it's like you're really shooting yourself in the foot in the long run, right?
And it also hurts a blogger more than it helps a blogger. And people don't realize this. So Instagram rewards organic activity, being from organic likes, organic shares, organic messaging. And when the Instagram algorithm picks up on you doing something such as, like you mentioned, the engagement pods, or when you are buying all these followers, Instagram is trying to push out your content to your audience, and they're pushing it out to all these fake people. So you're not getting the engagement back that you were expecting, thinking you have 20,000 followers, because you're not actually reaching that amount of people. So
Hmm.
it's hurtful for brands, and it's also hurtful for influencers, but they still do it. So it blows my
That's
mind.
I think you hit on something really key, which is that a lot of creators have a very short-term mindset when it comes to their careers as creators. They just see like, oh, if I can like do this, I can get like a couple $100 for a brand deal or whatever. And I get that. Like it is a lot of money. Like I get that. But it's like, if you do, especially if you want to have like a longer term, career as a creator, like you do need to have a much broader mindset about like your overall strategies for growth and engagement and things like that. And speaking of engagement, we're going to talk about engagement pods, but this is a great time to talk about, before we do that, how can you actually get real engagement? And I wanted to say thank you so much to Restream. You guys, we've been talking like week over week about, sponsorships and things like that. I have my very first sponsorship for the live stream. So I'm so thankful to Restream for sponsoring this stream. And I am using Restream right now to do this live stream, to interview Jordan. And I want to share a little bit more about Restream, and we'll talk about it in a second here. So again, thank you so much to Restream for sponsoring this. You guys, I am live streaming to multiple different platforms right now. My YouTube channel, LinkedIn, my private Facebook group, Twitch, Twitter, like you can go live on like a zillion different platforms. And again, one of the biggest things that I have found an advantage of is just doing interviews. Like it's so easy. You just send them a link. They can join right in. You've seen there's all these different camera angles. I'm going to bring Jordan back in here. Boom. Look at the camera angle. We got another camera angle here. As you see, I can share screen screens. I can share that video. How cool is that? I could share a video on your live streams as well too, and it just looks super polished. If I'm sending it to brands about sponsoring the live stream, if I'm sending it to potential interviewees, it's always very impressive. And again, I'm just so thankful to Restream. So you can try Restream out for free. Make sure to click the link down below. I have the pro account and it's awesome. So I can do, I'm streaming in like 1080p, 60 frames per second quality right now. And so again, it's just like a staple to my like creator strategy, my platform strategy. So definitely check it out. And if you do join, let them know I sent you. And again, thanks to Restream for sponsoring the stream. So let's dive back into it. So Jordan, tell me like about engagement pods, because I know that this is like a big thing that people are doing, right? And it's like, especially, they're joining these like engagement pods where there's like sometimes hundreds of bloggers or influencers and things like that in there. And so like, what has been your experience with that?
So when I first started, I was in engagement pods and I was in quite a few that I've developed relationships with those girls and we still connect over time. So in some ways they can be helpful, but in a very specific way. So like you mentioned, there's pods that have hundreds of people. And then sometimes there's pods that have a group of maybe 8 to 10 girls that are already following and engaging with each other, but just having that little pod of messages to just say, hey girls, like I just posted yada yada, would love your support. And then they can go and comment on, whenever they have time throughout the day. But the pods that have hundreds of people, you don't know who is commenting because you can't know. There's so many people added in and out daily. And it's honestly fake. Like it is truly fake engagement. If you are putting your links out there on sponsored content and you are just basically not buying, but you're doing it unauthentically, the brand is not getting what they're investing in you. So it's just bad, like all around bad.
Yeah, I hear that. And, one thing that I've started seeing is actually brands adding language into the brand deal contracts stating that you cannot be a part of engagement pods, right?
Yep.
That they view that as like a breach of contract, essentially. And I think a lot of creators are getting in hot water over this because they're just signing the contract. They're not, even though they're in those engagement pods, they're doing it. They know it's like a wink, wink, nod, nod thing, right? But it's like they're doing it. And I think that they have a lot of exposure for that if they ever get like found out or discovered or whatever. And I've heard situations where this type of thing has happened. And I think that like, it's just not worth the risk in my opinion with that type of thing. The other thing too is like, like you've talked about the fact that like, sometimes you have a group of friends, right? That you're very supportive and things like that. And I think that that's different than an engagement pod, right? Where it's like you're joining the group specifically for that reason. Because you obviously want to be like supportive and stuff, but it's like, okay, it's like a ring. It's like, okay, I posted my sponsor post. Now it's everyone go comment it. And okay, it's my turn the next day, or it's like you're like scheduling it or something, So I think there's shades of gray with this type of thing, which makes it a little bit like complicated, I think sometimes,
Hard
right?
to understand. And like you said, there's a difference in, sending your link to a couple friends that you're already engaging with. And there's a difference in sending a link to hundreds of people there's a couple different apps that they're even using now. They're not even using Instagram for it. There's one that's, WeChat, maybe, I think. And it literally, you can add up to 500 people in a group chat. So that's a lot of likes and a lot of comments that are just coming in that aren't really organic likes and comments. So just a lot, like you said, a lot of gray area. Like there's good things, there's bad things, and defining what the difference is important.
Yeah, and Dee was saying in the chat when we were talking about photoshopping metrics, why go through all the hassle to Photoshop the facts? It's going to come out eventually. I would never.
I know. I wish I knew, because the worst is when they will have majority of a foreign audience. Like say you're an American content creator and the brand is asking for the majority of your audience to be American-based accounts, and your majority is not American-based accounts, and then they just will edit and change up the wording, like just remove USA or American and switch things around, and it's just crazy. Like I have seen that so many times, and it blows my mind that people go through those steps.
I honestly can. It's just like what's the craziest part about it to me is it like I oftentimes think everyone is like me, or like, I think everyone's like honest and like I just want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but it's like clearly not the case, especially I think when money gets involved. It's like, oh, like I can make money off of this. So it's like, oh, I'm going to justify that I need to like feed my family or whatever. Like I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's like you're really making it so much harder for everyone who is honest, which
Yeah.
is really one of the primary things that we're talking about today. And by the way, if you guys have any questions about this topic, about fake influencers and buying likes and bots and all that stuff, please leave it in the chat because we definitely want to answer your questions. And so I wanted to also chat about loop giveaways because this is something that I've seen a lot of where it's like, you're all first of all, explain what loop giveaways are to us and like why people do it.
Yeah, so a loop giveaway is essentially a large group of bloggers who are looking to grow their accounts following size, and they will all get together and say, give a Peloton away. So a Peloton is very expensive. So when you break down the cost and divide it between 60 girls, it can be so much as cheap as like $50. Like it's very much affordable. And so you put this out there and the page will say like, oh, follow these 60 girls. And then all these people are following all 60 people, hoping that they'll win this item. So when the followers come in, those followers most of the time are only following that person in hopes that they're going to win this Peloton. They're not following that person because they authentically and organically want to follow that person because they enjoy that person's content. They're just following for a Peloton. So it's almost counterproductive for influencers to even utilize them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And D in the chat said, the time spent to fake your success could be better spent making amazing content and getting the success organically. It's such a good feeling working hard and getting the results. Honestly, exactly, D. And Diana said, I think your audience is intelligent enough to know to know not to buy vanity metrics. Yes, I'm hoping the audience here is intelligent enough to know that. However, Diana, not everyone is. Not everyone is out there on social media, and I think that that's part of the problem. The other, I think, big challenge is, and Jordan, you've probably experienced this, is that you probably get these like random DMs from like
Oh
these,
my gosh.
these like basically these like scam type. Well, they're scams, but like they legitimately will do it. You could buy followers. They're like, oh yeah, 5,000 followers for $20 or like
Yep.
blah, 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 blah. And it's like inbound. It's like coming into creators. So it's like, oh, it seems like for people who don't know any better, especially if you're at the beginning stages of your career as a creator, you get this inbound, you think it's legitimate. You think it's like real, like, oh, like this is meant for me. This is like a offer for me. Like I need to do this. It's like people, sometimes I think like it's not always malicious per se. I think people maybe are not sure, but like, I don't know. I
No,
feel like they prey on people's ignorance
they do. Yeah.
sometimes,
They definitely will reach out to more like micro influencers or people that they see are trying to create content or become a
Mm-hmm.
blogger. If I had a follower for every time I got a message, I would probably be well over $30,000. Like it is insane the number of those messages that I get. And like you said, it's sometimes people don't do it in a malicious way. They truly think like, oh, this is awesome. Instead of waiting to get my swipe up at 10,000, I can just buy the followers and get it now. And they do it thinking it's going to help them. And like I've touched on earlier, it honestly, it hurts you in the long run because
Mm-hmm.
you're putting your content out there thinking you're reaching an audience and you're not, you're reaching a ghost account. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, with respect to, the loop giveaways, I can tell you for a fact, like I know that there are brands they're becoming more savvy. There are starting to be more software programs available to brands that they can utilize to detect this type of behavior,
yeah.
where they actually will go in and look like, and if they see there's like, you got 5,000 followers overnight or in a
Mhm.
24-hour period, clearly that looks somewhat suspicious, right? And so it's like, the other thing you have to remember too is that like oftentimes when these brands are vetting influencers for a potential campaign, they're probably if it's a larger campaign and they're looking for, let's say 20 influencers, they're probably looking at 100 or 200 influencer partners, like
Mhm.
possible people to partner with. So if they see anything suspicious about your account, they're going to move on, right? So it's like, it's not worth it to like, oh, really, let me just really dig into this and see, is this really fake, authentic behavior? Like, oh, let me look. No, they're not. It's just like, they don't have time. It's not worth it to them, right? So it's like, why give them any excuse to pass you up for an opportunity for doing things like this. You know what I mean?
I think for some influencers, and I've experienced it myself personally, we're constantly being told no more times in regards to our follower count and our like count, more so than our quality of content and our quality of audience.
Mm.
Like, I cannot tell you, just recently I had a brand that reached out to me and wanted to work with me, and they told me, basically encouraged me to grow to 30,000 followers so they could work with me. And I was just appalled that they would almost encourage negative behavior just so I would look better to them when they partnered with me. It was insane.
That's crazy, and I think it's also counterproductive for the brand because, there is, I mean, a lot of studies that have shown that, like, especially nano and micro influencers have a much better engagement rate than a lot of mid-tier and macro influencers. Like, they have built up a much more intimate connection with their audience, not only because of the smaller scale and the ability to engage with like more people in general, but the I think they're also missing the complete boat about the value of, I mean, speaking about value of like partnering with a creator who's smaller, is the ability to like repurpose influencers content and use it, repost it on their handles or things like that too. So it's like, I think a lot of brands are missing the boat when they're purely looking at the vanity high level metrics of creators
Yes.
and thinking that like, oh, that's the only thing that matters when it comes to impact. For this partnership. One thing I wanted to just quickly ask about is like, I know that giveaways are like a major methodology for growth for a lot of
Hmm.
creators, especially on Instagram, because it's like, it's really hard to grow on Instagram now. Like the tactics that people used to use a couple years ago,
I don't
aren't
anymore.
working as much now. And you have to be doing, reels, and you have to be doing live, 4-way live, whatever new feature
Yeah.
they're introducing, you have to use, and so it's like, I think people get really like demoralized because it's like, oh, how am I going to grow? So like, I guess the only way to do it is either buy likes or do giveaways, right? So it's like, are there types of giveaways that you think are legitimate and
Yeah.
are ways to like grow with the right type of audience or followers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a great way, like a good way and a bad way to go about giveaways. I do giveaways about once every other week, and it's basically like my favorite things, and it's a way to encourage my audience to engage with me on my content, to push my content out. So I'm not asking to grow. I'm just encouraging my audience. Hey, be liking all of my photos for the month of July, and I'm going to pick a winner and send out this basket of goodies. Another good way is to get together with a group of like-minded bloggers where you all have kind of like a similar niche and a similar audience. That way, when you guys are going on your stories and you're talking about each other, whether it's we're sharing different styles of denim shorts, or we're sharing how to decorate a space in our home, when that other influencers audience sees your content, they resonate with that content, and then they want to follow you, and it's an organic follow. Even though there is some type of monetary benefit to the follow, it's still, they're following you because they see something in you that they want to follow for.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think um, one of the ways in which, like, my wife and I, for example, we always want to give back. We use it as a methodology to like give back, which is that if we get a sponsorship or something, part of the reason that we're able to like be creators in the long run over the last decade or whatever is because of our followers, right? And so oftentimes we'll be like, oh, we'll give away an Amazon gift card or something for saying thanks on a sponsored post or something like that. So it's like there are absolutely ways that you can do it that are like, it's more about like giving back than it is about like, oh, like the only reason I'm doing this is to try to like grow or whatever.
Yeah.
But you bring up a really important point, I think, which is that the whole goal should be about trying to get in front of people who is your like target
Yes.
follower, right?
All
Because the last thing you want is to get a huge percentage of your audience who is not in like the demographic of the brand partners that you want to work with, right?
Yep.
So I think that's like a major thing that not a lot of creators think about, which is just like, oh, I want the number. I want like 10,000, 15,000, whatever. It's like, no, what's really more important and what really will drive more results for the brand in the long run, especially if they're like looking for conversions or
Yeah.
sales or whatever, is like, no, you want to get like that mom, between the ages of the 18 and 34, who has kids between the ages of 5 and 6, 12, whatever, right? It's like, that's who you want in your audience, because that's who, you really resonate with. And that's really what the brands that you work with are trying to like access in the long run, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And Dee brings up a good point, Dee and Fam. She said, I thought giveaways were a great way to get your audience to engage with you. Dee, that's a great point. It is a great way to get your audience to engage with you. But it's just making sure that you are going about it the right way. Like how I mentioned, rewarding my audience just by simply liking, saving my photos that, they're already following me anyways. Is great. So just rewarding them with, a giveaway here and there. Sometimes I even am like, hey, I want to buy you guys coffee, drop your Venmo. I'll Venmo you guys, some money here and there. That's great ways to just give back to your audience for following you. And
Mhm.
that's a great point for sure.
Yeah, and Ashley was saying in the chat that this is another downside of it as you grow, is that some of my friends who are huge YouTubers have so many followers that are strictly there to just be haters. It's really sad. So those followers are definitely not going to be beneficial for the brand. Exactly. So it's like, you better be careful what you wish for, because if you're getting a bunch of followers, you may not actually want them there, right?
Let's
Uh,
not
in the
very,
long
very
run.
picky about who I even do the small giveaways that I do with, because I have a very specific audience that I'm trying to reach. And so just doing your research on your own as an influencer, making sure that who you are doing giveaways with, their audience is someone that you want following you. Because
That's a
like she
great
said,
point.
you get the wrong people following you and it's just gonna go the wrong way.
And okay, speaking of which, I've been thinking about doing some giveaways on my Creator Wizard channel. So let me know in the chat if I were to give something away. What do you guys want? Like, I don't even know. Like, what as creators, what is interesting? Like, I think a lot of creators who help other creators like me, they give away things like camera equipment or like things like that can help other creators. But is that really that interesting? I don't know if that is. Like, let me know in the chat if I was to give away some stuff, y'all. What should I give away? Let me know, because I don't really know. So I find that to be the best way. I'm just going to crowdsource it. So let me know.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So let's talk about advice that you can give, that we can talk about for real influencers who want to stand out
Yeah.
to brands, right? Because I think that that's really the crux of the matter. Is like, okay, yes, we know that this is a problem, but how can we actually fix it? So how do you think about that in terms of like how you've recommended your friends approach this and things like that?
So my best advice to someone, especially someone starting out, is to just remain true and organic from the start. If you're buying into these likes, eventually you're going to see that you're not getting the return of investment from that, and you're going to have to go in and remove all those, or sometimes even start fresh. I've seen bloggers that will get to that 10,000 mark, but then when they post a photo, they're getting 20 likes, and they can't grow, they can't reach a bigger audience, and they have to start fresh because they did it the wrong way from the beginning. So I would say just play by the rules, like, create good quality content. The biggest thing that I can recommend is bring value to your audience. If you are doing something that they want to come back and watch you, whether it's, you're providing recipes, ways to style different clothing, just there's so many different ways that you can bring value to people through social media. So just having that in the back of your mind, like, if I'm putting this out there, is this something that I would follow someone to watch? So always keeping that in mind and making sure that your content is speaking to that point.
I love that. And other things that I think are really critical is like, the I think a lot of creators overlook the quality of their content, right?
Yeah.
Because, like at the end of the day, there absolutely are going to be brands out there, like we talked about, who see a lot of value in repurposing that content. Because like, if they weren't going to be hiring a creator like you, Jordan, or a creator out there on social media to create the content that they were going to be posting on their pages, they would have to go out and hire a production company,
Yep.
hire an agency, hire actors and actresses. That's all like hard money that they have to post. So this isn't even accounting for the fact that you have an organic distribution. So I think that it's really critical to think about the fact that you have so many things to bring to the table, right, as a creator, and so emphasizing the quality of your content. Also, like, I think that it's a really critical thing to not be afraid to send your metrics. Right. By the way, Jordan had to run off for a second here, so I'm going to give you some solo gems here, which is that don't be afraid to send your metrics. Right. Like, I think that it's really important to be like proud of your reach, proud of your engagement, and in the long run, like own that. Like, you don't need to be like nervous about that or scared about that. I think we got Jordan back here. I'm going to pull her in.
Sorry, guys.
Here we go. Boom, she's back. But that was seamless. Look at how seamless. You guys didn't even know she was gone. If I hadn't said anything,
I just
it's a
3-year-old.
it's okay. Hey, this is I have a 4 and a 7 year old, so this is how this is life. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I was listening to what you were saying. Being proud of your metrics is something that, like, I mean, unless you are being just super shady, you cannot fake. Like, be proud that you have, the majority female audience. A brand that's like a makeup brand or a women's fashion boutique is not going to partner with you if you have 75% male following. So if you have
Mm-hmm.
a 100% female audience, that's their target audience. So be
Mm-hmm.
proud of that. Yeah.
I see that actually a lot. There's certain how do I say this delicately? There are definitely certain types of creators on social media who tend to be more risque and
Mhm.
and do things that are post content that's not you know what I'm saying, right?
Wait,
And who do you think follows that? It's not, you know
it's
what
the
I mean?
yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's the opposite sex usually, or same sex if it's a same sex couple. But it's like, you know what I mean. So it's like, I think a lot of like people don't think about that. Like, are you attracting the audiences that the brands are actually going to want to like work with, right?
Exactly.
With the type of organic content that you're posting, right? So definitely, definitely something to think about. Talk about speaking of metrics, like I think that a lot of creators don't do this, but like asking the brand for the results of the campaign that you
Yes.
have worked with, because then you can start building case studies for yourself that then I think a lot of creators are like scared to ask for the results
Mhm.
because they're like, oh my god, what if I didn't sell enough, or like what if I didn't do this? But it's like, if you don't have that data to like know how you should improve, or be able to utilize that to like sell yourself for a future brand partner, I think you're really missing the boat.
Yeah, it's crucial, especially when it's something that like a brand is giving you, maybe like a discount code that's unique to you. Um, really making sure that you're checking in with them, whether it's once a month or once a week, whatever it is, and just saying, hey, can you update me? Can you provide me with some insights? Like, and ask for maybe even like a screenshot of the screen, because I hate to say it, but sometimes they might, dull it down. So just ask for, hey, like, I would love to see how I'm doing, because that's something you can keep in your back pocket. And when you go to another brand that's, say it's another women's clothing boutique, and, you can hold that in your back pocket and say, well, hey, I partnered with this company and they're similar to your brand. And, I sold XYZ, and it's like a complete shoe in that you're going to benefit that company.
Absolutely. And another thing that we had chatted about was like testimonials, right? So it's like, I'm not just necessarily testimonials from brands or agencies, but also your own followers. That was a really interesting thing you mentioned. So have you done that before? Like what have you, how have you kind of like angled that?
Yeah, I have. So my like sweet spot with my audience is that I am constantly in my inbox with them. I am constantly messaging them. Most of these people I've never met in real life, but I still have that connection with. And that is something that you cannot show on metrics, but you can show it by asking that follower for a testimonial. So I've gone so far as to, post something on my Instagram and just say, hey, like, I'm working with a company and I really would like you guys' feedback on a previous collab that was similar. If you'll send me an email with like a quick testimonial, I will, buy you coffee the next day. Like, it's that easy, and it's super beneficial from a brand's perspective, because your followers are who they're wanting to reach anyway. So getting feedback from them is a good thing to do.
I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. And I think that's really kind of a next level tactic, because a lot of creators don't think about that like, yes, like I can't tell you how many times this has happened where a brand will partner with my wife and I, or through my agency or whatever. And the thing that they get the most excited about is not the number of likes on the post, the thing, or the number of views on the video. Yes, that's like it's part of the campaign. But what they get excited about and what they email about and be like, oh my God, there's so many great comments. There's
Hmm.
so many great comments talking about how much like I've never use this brand, or I've never tried it out. The next time I'm at the store, I'm going to pick it up. Like,
Yep.
those, screenshot that stuff, right? Especially if it's on a sponsored post, right? So yes, you could do testimonials just like organically, but also what are people saying on the sponsored posts that you've done in the past? Because you can really utilize that and show that to future brands about how engaged your audience is, right?
Yeah, like D and Fam just brought up a good point. Same with the media kit, and as far as sharing your metrics. Sometimes I go so far, like, especially if it's a brand that I really want to work with, I will make a custom media kit for that brand, basically saying why I'm a good fit to market a certain product for that brand. And I will do what Justin said, and I will go through and take screenshots of, shares on my social media where someone is like, oh my gosh, I've been looking for a product like that. Like whatever it is, it's a beneficial comment. And I will like insert little snippets of comments like that. And I can't tell you how great the feedback has been because brands are like, oh wow, like there's already a need for it. Your audience is responding well to it. Like, of course we want to work with you.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too that I think we'd be remiss if we didn't discuss, which is just that, especially if you're working with smaller brands, maybe
Mhm.
it's like a mom and pop shop or something, or it's just like an up and coming brand. A lot of them have no idea that this is going on. Like a lot of them just don't know, right?
Yep.
And so don't be. I don't think you should be afraid to like say like if there's a scenario where brands are like providing feedback that like, oh, your reach is lower than the other people they were talking to or whatever, like you can straight up say like, hey, like are you utilizing software tools to ensure that all your other influencer partners have legitimate audiences? There's nothing wrong with saying that. It's not like I don't think you're trying to instigate anything. I think it's, but if they're bringing that up as like a concern, be like, okay, well, I just want you to know that and Jordan, we could send them this live stream, right? Be like, hey, go check out this live stream, right? Go watch this YouTube video.
Yep.
But it's like so a lot of people don't know that this is happening. So
Nope.
providing a little bit of education to them and be like, hey, like you need to make sure that like all these other people you're saying that you're going to work with that have like all this large following, are they legitimate, right? Because there's nothing wrong with saying that, I think.
No, I think there's a difference in being informative, knowing that you're coming from a place of good, than coming from a place that's malicious. Throwing someone specifically under the bus, like seeing that they're working with someone and you're like, well, she buys likes, like that's not okay. You should never just put someone out there because what if it's not true? Like, what if they're not buying likes and you just think they are? But informing them that that is being done just in the industry in general and explaining to them how they can go about it and how they can identify it is definitely okay. And I encourage that to anyone who reaches out to me. I tell them all the time, like, make sure that people you're working with know that, some influencers out there are not really honest. They're what I call fake influencers. So
There we go. Fake fluent. That should have been the
yeah,
title of this title of this live stream. I haven't heard that one. Fake fluencer.
I
Yeah.
use
And
it a lot. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not a fake influencer. So
I've actually, man, I wish I had a picture of it, but I've actually seen like they actually have like these shops where like people will like it's not necessarily just a bot, but it's like they literally have like 30 phones like on. Have you seen that picture? Like 30 phones like on a screen, and it's
yep,
like people they're like doing engagement stuff. Like it's on it's
yep.
crazy. Like
It is
that this is
honestly crazy.
it's a business. It's a business. So,
Mhm.
anyways, I wish I would have pulled that picture up. But again, if you have any questions about this, like how to stand out,
Yeah.
any questions about brand deals or anything like that, if you've ever gotten to a situation where a brand is like doubted your following, doubted your engagement rate, that's another thing too. Talk about engagement rate because I see a lot of creators be very concerned about that, about oh, I need to like make sure that my engagement rate is over a certain amount or like or whatever. And in fact, I actually have run into situations where brands have like it was a requirement for them for
Yep.
any creator partners that they worked with had to have above 2% or whatever it is. Like what in your circle, like what are people saying about engagement rate?
I hear a lot about engagement rate, but I think the main thing that I tell people to focus on, do not focus on the number of likes and the number of follows. Focus on the quality of your content. Like whether it's, for me, my audience responds to just like snap pictures, real raw lifestyle. But if your audience is not responding to that, reevaluate your game plan and, maybe put a little bit more time into your quality of content. And then when your followers are scrolling their feed and they're seeing this beautiful photo, maybe they'll like it more. So if engagement rate isn't where it needs to be, look at different things that you could be doing that you're not already doing and start implementing things here and there and you could see a change. But definitely don't focus on engagement rate alone because the way that the Instagram algorithm is changing every day, we can never guarantee that we're going to get 500 likes on a post. Like you can't, you never know. So just
Mm-hmm.
focusing on that content and sticking with it and just doing what you can.
Yeah, I totally hear that. I totally agree with that. And one thing I'm curious about is like if you had to put your hand on your own shoulder like
Mhm.
4 years ago, right? Or you were giving advice to a creator who's kind of at the outset of their journey. Like what do you believe is the most important thing that you can do to maintain a super engaged audience? Like where it's impossible to mistake like a real audience for
Yeah.
for a fake one?
I would say just finding something that is easy for you to talk about. Like if creating content is hard for you, maybe you should reevaluate what you're trying to do. Like for me, I'm the lifestyle influencer, and I just can snap pics here and there, and that's what I'm good at. But in the beginning, I struggled with that because I was trying to create beautifully, categorized photo shoots, and I was trying to take all these pretty pictures, and it was taking me more time to do that, and I wasn't getting the return on it. So I had to reevaluate my game plan. So the biggest piece of advice is just knowing your end goal and staying true to that. Like just cruising out and staying on path.
Hmm. Like, if you had to make a speculation as to why platform, because it's got to be obvious to the platforms which creators are doing this, especially if, it's coming from the same like IP address, or it's coming from, you like you said, there's got to be software algorithms that you could detect where it's like, oh, this person just went from, 10 comment or 10 likes to 10,000 in 6 minutes, like why do you think that they're not clamping down on this?
I really wish I could understand, but I think just based off, like I mentioned earlier, the previous conversation that I had with a very large brand that is sold all across the US in big department stores, I think for them, it was more about their image. Like when a brand is partnering with someone, if a consumer is looking on their Instagram and, they're looking at photos and they're clicking and they're seeing this no body name with 5,000 followers, they're gonna be like, oh, like whatever. But when they click on that person's profile and they're seeing, oh, she's got 300,000 followers and she's getting 20,000 likes on her photo, they're like, oh, she must be impressionable. Like she must be really cool. Like maybe I should buy this. And it's sad because it goes back to what we've been talking about this whole time. Not everyone is really true, and they can just fake those metrics. So
Right.
I just wish brands would start doing their homework. It's sad that they don't.
Well, I think that, getting this type of information out there is a great first step, and I hope that
Mhm.
creators take this to heart, which is that you can start having some of these conversations with brands so that they understand. Because I think the more brands, the more influencers that understand that this type of thing is going on, the better we can take strides to ensuring that it's the real influencers that are the ones that are getting the actual
Yeah.
opportunities, right?
And it's being
Um,
unafraid to talk about it. Like
yeah.
I'm being vocal about it, and sometimes I can upset other influencers by doing it because they are doing these fake things. But at the end of the day, like I'm not doing it from a point of ill will. Like I'm doing it because them doing these bad things is hurting me. And at the end of the day, like I just want to progress on Instagram. I want to grow on Instagram. And if I can't do that and I can't get these partnerships because these other people are doing the wrong things, I should be able to speak out about it. I shouldn't
Mhm.
call them out and be, mean about it, but just talking about it and getting the word out there is what we can do to maybe stop it, slow it down. I don't know.
The other aspect of this, which I think is really critical to think about, going back to this whole thing about like going back to first principles, like, okay, quality of content and direct engagement with my followers. The reason that that's so critical is that these platforms that we're trying so hard to grow on can
Mhm.
literally decide overnight that they're changing everything up. Look at Instagram now testing the ability to hide your likes or hiding likes. They've done this in a lot of other countries. So it's like you spend all this time trying to like get all these likes, and now all it says is like liked by this person, and others, right, or whatever, right? So it's like, what's the point now? Well, you spent all this time trying to do that. So it's like, I think it's actually quite interesting. I saw some people
Yeah.
talking about this. Is like, oh, like what are brands going to think of this now that you can't publicly see likes? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's great, honestly, because like it goes back to it puts a lot of pressure on content creators to hit that certain amount of likes, to hit that, certain amount of comments on a post or, whatever it may be. So just taking that away and making it private to that influencer takes a lot of pressure off us that, when someone just goes and looks at us, they can't tell our worth just by taking a simple glance. They actually have to reach out to us. They have to, get us to send our insights. And it takes that an extra step for brands, but I think it's a great thing. And I'm proud of Instagram for doing it because it's not only helping content creators and businesses, but just people in general. Like, I mean, there's a whole nother spill about that, but just the pressure of social media sometimes it's just too much. So I think it's a great feature.
Yeah, yeah, like you said, like the mental health aspect of it, and
Yeah.
it definitely can be quite taxing, and it's. I mean, the other thing too is that like there's so much more competition now that Instagram's not the only game in town now. You
Nope.
know, with TikTok and who knows what platform is going to be popular in 2 years or whatever,
I know.
and what stuff is going to be prioritized. From the algorithm and vanity metrics and things like that with
And the
brands.
metrics
So
are, the metrics are still there. They didn't actually go away.
right,
It's
right, yeah, you could still access them.
yeah. So I think it's a, the Instagram upsets me every day because they're constantly changing and they're making it harder and harder. But that was one of the things that I was like, okay, Instagram, like I see you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, exactly. And I think that the again, like we talk about this over and over and over on this live stream, which is just that you have to own your audience, right? You cannot just depend on one platform to be your primary like revenue stream, right? So it's like anything can change at any time. Building your email list, having that intimate connection, one on one where people are messaging you and contacting you, and you have the ability to show that to brands. I think is just so critical. And we haven't even really touched on this, but I think it's important, which is just karma. Come on, like karma has no expiration date, and no, but seriously, like just be honest, right? Like be honest, like don't lie, don't do that kind of thing. It's going to catch up with you at some point.
Almost.
Maybe it's not today, maybe
Yep.
it's not tomorrow, but it might be next week.
I see it
So
happen all the time. I even have friends that are doing what we're sitting here talking about not doing. And, I'm constantly telling them like, hey, at one point you're going to realize like, it hurts you. And so it's just like, maybe it's helping you today, but what happens when Instagram finally catches on and it's like, yep, we're cutting it out. Like we're done. And then you don't have an audience.
well, look
So,
at I mean, we're both in the some private Facebook groups that talk about this kind of thing a lot, which is that like people will be like, "Oh my God, Instagram suspended my account. I can't log in." All this stuff. Like sometimes they will do that.
yeah. And it's like, what are you doing to give them a reason to suspend your account? Like, are you doing the wrong
Yeah. Right. And look at what happens when you've got like 5 brand deals lined up. Hello. How's it going?
I'm gonna go place your cards in there. I'm almost done.
It's okay. What's your name?
Can you say
It's
Carter?
a race car.
It's a race card.
It's a race car. What color is it?
Right there.
What?
Oh
Can
my
you tell me
God.
what color it is?
What color is that race car?
What color is it?
Whoa.
Is it purple? He would have told you.
This is a family friendly show. It's a family friendly segment. My kids were here. I would bring them in too. Yeah. So
I mean, yeah, it's like there's like a whole list of things that influencers should be doing to combat this issue, and they're just not. And it's sad that people aren't willing, because at the end of the day, it's only going to help those of us who are trying to do the right thing.
absolutely, absolutely. Jordan, thank you so much for tuning in today. This was such a great live stream. I hope everyone found value from it. If you're not following Jordan, make sure to follow her on Instagram. I'm going to pull up her page right here. So make sure to follow Jordan on Instagram. This is a great conversation. If you guys have any other questions, let us know in the chat. But this was absolutely a fantastic conversation. And Jordan, any parting words?
I just want to say thanks for everybody listening in and, leaving the comments and asking the questions. It means a lot that, there are people who are interested in this topic, because it shows that, there's people that think just like me that are upset by it too. So I just want to say thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This was such a fantastic conversation. Thanks again. Everyone go follow Jordan. And once again, thanks to Restream for sponsoring this stream, and we'll see you next time.